Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Computer America Show. What can I say? We have a terrific show planned for you today. As always, in the second hour, we're going to do computer and technology news brought to you by Slimware Utilities. And in the first hour, we're going to have Techguy.org. Mike Cermak, one of our correspondents, is going to be joining us for both hours, talking about whatever he wants to talk about. It should be a fun show, and sit back, relax, as we bring to you 2 hours of Computer America in 30 seconds.
A whole 30 seconds. What do you do with it all?
I don't know. Let's think about it and see what we could do with for 30 seconds. What could we do?
Can we sing a song?
We could, but
We can sing American Pie
yeah,
at like 18 times the speed.
actually, it's only 10 seconds now.
Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting live, it's America's longest-running national radio talk show on computers, Computer America, hosted by national columnist Craig Crossman. Look for Craig's weekly column in your favorite newspaper. This show being beamed nationwide at ComputerAmerica.com. Keep it here for technology news, computer products, guest interviews, and your phone calls. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello, and welcome into the Computer America Show. It's the nation's longest-running, nationally syndicated radio talk show about computers and technology. Computer America is heard around the world and coast to coast. And I'm your host, Craig Crossman.
And I'm your co-host, Ben.
And welcome into Wednesday edition of the Computer America Show. I guess you could say it's hump day here on Computer America, halfway through the week. It's actually a short week because obviously we had the 4th of July holiday on Monday. And
that did happen.
yeah, exactly. So technically, this is the second day we're on the air for this week. But as always, we bring to you a wonderful show about computers and technology, as we always do. In the second hour, we're going to have computer and technology news. That's brought to you by Slimware Utilities. They are the official optimization software of Computer America. And in the first hour, we're going to have Techguy.org on here on the show. Mike Cermak is the owner-operator of Techguy.org. They provide 24 hours, round-the-clock technical support and service. I mean, they're just a really great website to have in your tool chest. If you're there at 3 in the morning and you need help, and we're not on the air between 3 and 5, and you can't call us live, Mike's website truly is a terrific place to have. And techguy.org is the website, and we actually have a link to them at our website, computeramerica.com. Of course, while Mike is on the air or when we're doing computer technology news, we always leave the phone lines open. So if you want to give us a call, if you have a computer problem or question, of course, this is a really good time to get that solved because Mike Cermak, we've added him here to the cadre of expertise for today's show. 347-884-8881. That's 347-884-8881. We'll get you on and get you through. You can also, if you don't want to go on the air live, you can head over to our website, computeramerica.com. On every page in the upper right-hand corner, it says Submit a Question. It's a link. Click on it. It'll take you to our question submission page. You can type in whatever you like, hit the Submit button, and Ben and I will see what you're talking about, what you've typed instantaneously. The other thing you can do also is watch the live video stream of the show. You can see Ben. You're supposed to be able to see Mike Cermak, but he's having technical problems with his camera. Hopefully we'll get that fixed. But you can see live video, and of course Ben has the technology to display the websites we're talking about, videos, movies, links, that type of thing. So it just makes for a more enriched experience. So head over to computeramerica.com. On any page on the menu bar it says Show Lounge. If you click that, it'll take you to our live video streaming page, which you'll be joined to the show already in progress. You'll be able to see everything as well as hear everything. It's just another great way for you to see what we're talking about on Computer America. So anything else you want to mention before we bring Mike on to the show, Ben?
Anything else? Yeah, as always, you seem to cover a lot with your little spiel there in the beginning. But no, ComputerAmerica.com has everything that you need to know about our show. And stick around for the second hour. We're going to have lots of great news stories, getting them together now.
Mm-hmm.
Some of those include things like Verizon, how all their data plans are about to be even though they are already the most expensive in the country.
Wow.
They're about to get more expensive. but it comes with a trade-off, obviously, being now they have the most data of any carrier. So, it is what it is. But stories like that, more, and plenty of other topics we're going to talk about in the second hour. So stick around for that. But of course, since you're already here for the first hour, stick around for that as well.
Okay. Well, as I said, Mike Cermak is the owner-operator of Techguy.org, which is a website dedicated to helping others with their computer problems and answering their questions. So if you're looking for free technical support, well, Techguy.org is the right place for you to be. It's been around since 1996, and Mike's site is run completely by volunteers and paid for completely by donations and sponsors. Mike is also one of our cadre of Computer America correspondents who appears here every first Wednesday of the month, it being the first Wednesday of the month. Mike, welcome to Computer America. How are you?
I'm doing all right. How about you guys?
Doing well.
We're doing well, and so glad that we can see you now. And
Yeah, it's not quite working right. It's super low resolution, and it looks like I got black bars, at least on this side, up above me.
You're free and clear. No,
Oh, am I?
Yeah,
No, it just shows weird on my side. Then I'll stop messing with it.
Yeah, you look fine.
Well, of course, I started installing the webcam driver, and right now it says it's 42% done, but it said that since we started the show, so, so if I disappear all of a sudden, I'll be back as soon as I can, but I anticipate it's just stuck there until I reboot.
Now, the angle, of course, is I can see up. I can count the nose hairs.
All right. Boy, you're so particular. I want video to work. I want to not look up your nose. I want to. Boy, so many. I don't know. You can either look down on me or look up at me. I don't know. Is that better?
Down is much, much better. Trust me.
I wish I had a zoom function. Well, maybe it looks okay on your side. On my side, it looks super zoomed, but maybe I'm seeing a cropped image.
Yeah. No, you look fine on our image.
Well, I know I look fine, but the image is okay.
How does he look at you?
Looks good. And I'm glad Craig is taking such excruciating steps to make sure the video is just right on a radio program. That's good. Thank you.
Well, I thought you were going to say compared to his video feed.
Yeah,
that too.
That too. But all right. So again, we find ourselves here in July, and hopefully you had a nice 4th of July weekend there, Mike. And
I surely did.
And obviously, lots of things have been happening. We always kind of defer to you as to maybe there might be a topic or subjects that you'd like to speak about, unless, of course, we get a caller. But in the meantime, anything that's pressing that you would like to talk about on today's show?
Well, I dropped a couple of links over to you that I thought might be interesting. I'm not sure how many things you guys already spoke about. Of course, one of the top things for me is always Tesla, and I've had a lot of people, since I'm kind of the local Tesla person, who's come up to me and said, how about that autopilot, huh? And it's been all over the news.
Fatality? You're talking about the first fatality?
Yeah, unfortunately, the first fatality in a Tesla while it was driving an autopilot.
Yeah, and that was because the truck, the color of the truck actually matched the sky, or some weird.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of variables that went into it, as with any accident, and I think the important thing to keep in mind is I think the accident took place in spite of the fact that he was using autopilot, not because he was using autopilot necessarily. But you're exactly right. So the Tesla was traveling down in Florida, and not far from your neck of the woods, I guess, and on a divided highway, but not an interstate. It's a highway that has cross traffic on it, and there was a tractor trailer coming the other direction that turned left in front of the Tesla. There's no traffic control device there. He was just meant to yield, and either didn't see the car coming or underestimated his speed or whatever, thought he could make it. And the Tesla didn't slow down, the driver didn't hit the brake, and the autopilot didn't, and it just drove right under the trailer and just cut off the top of the car and killed the driver. So a real shame, but then of course the big question is, this is the first fatality in a vehicle being driven by an autopilot system, so it's being criticized pretty carefully, and there's a lot of variables. I think obviously the cause, and we'll wait for the official examinations and everything to come out to see exactly what they find in their research, but it seems to me that the accident was caused by the truck not yielding to the car, that when it turned left. But why the car didn't see the the truck is an interesting thing, which goes into the sky, as you mentioned, that Tesla brought up, and then also that the driver didn't react to it either, because when it's in autopilot mode, when a driver sits into a Tesla and puts it on autopilot on a road like this, it it drives you, it handles the steering wheel and the brakes and the speed and all of that, and keeps you in your lane. But you're meant to be paying attention, and there's many warnings you have to agree to each time that you go to use it that tells you keep your hands on the wheel, stay in control of your vehicle, be prepared to take over at any time. And whether it just all happened too fast for him to react, or whether he was distracted, there's some theories on that as well. There's rumors now that there was actually a DVD player in the car with him, and that he may have been watching a movie while driving down the road, which would also put some fault on the Tesla driver's side.
He didn't have a stellar driving record, from what I understand. The
Tesla driver. Well, neither one. I'm not sure what you mean, but neither one.
Didn't have a very good driving record, but of course that's still no excuse. And what I've always theorized or come to the conclusion with is that you can only do so many examples of testing in the lab. I mean, when you throw something this out into the quote-unquote real world, these different scenarios, like, oh, what if the truck is the same color as the sky? I mean, and he happens to turn at this particular a certain set of scenarios. You can't anticipate everything like that, and so obviously the next time this happens, they're going to have that program to do it, so it won't do it again. And the more cars that are on the road, the more feedback that they get, and they put into this giant knowledge database. So when that scenario happens again, there'll be something will happen. The car will be told to brake, stop, whatever, swerve. But the point is, you can't anticipate everything, and that's why I would think that the more cars like this that are out there, and for the longer, the more time they can be out there, and you have more and more of these scenarios, you're going to be able to accommodate them.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right, and that's critical to keep in mind. Is that this is a first-generation autopilot, self-driving type system, and it clearly isn't meant to be self-driving in the sense that you can sit back and watch a movie. I don't know for sure that's what was happening, but clearly that isn't what it's meant to do. Not to say that there haven't been people who have abused it already, but Tesla pointed out in their news release on it that their autopilot system has driven 130 million miles so far, and this is the first fatality, as opposed to, on average in the U.S., there's a fatality every 94 million miles, and worldwide every 60 million miles, which isn't really statistically relevant yet. We need more miles for that to really mean something, because if there's another fatality tomorrow, then it's right. you need more numbers for it to be statistically relevant. But still, it's a good indicator. But they point out exactly what you're saying, Craig, is that as more real-world miles accumulate and the software logic accounts for increasingly rare events, the probability of injury will keep decreasing. Autopilot is getting better all the time, but it is not perfect and still requires the driver to remain alert. And there's a lot of interesting reasons why it didn't see it in this case. First of all, the primary training for the autopilot is to see the back of vehicles so that it doesn't run into one, and so that it can follow them down the highway. They didn't anticipate many scenarios where on a highway there would be a truck pulling perpendicular across the road from you, and especially in these particular lighting conditions, as you mentioned, Craig, that the white trailer, at that angle with the sky behind it, was difficult for the camera to differentiate. But the car has a lot of different sensors. Another sensor it uses is radar, so that it can try and see if there's something in front of it. The problem in this circumstance is that the radar shot right underneath the trailer, because it's such a high-riding trailer. And the radar in the Tesla, of course, is right up in the nose of it, which is just a foot or so above the ground.
Just so many extenuating
perfect little storms that all led to a fatality.
That's right. Yeah, if either driver had been paying more attention, if the lighting conditions had been different, if the radar had been able to pick up a different part of the truck, but yeah, there's always going to be scenarios like this. There's an interesting book I was reading on this sort of thing, and they point out that as auto driving vehicles become more and more popular, people are going to trust them, and then one day something will go wrong, and an automatic car is going to drive through a playground and kill a kid, and then people aren't going to trust them anymore and completely disregard the countless lives that were saved before it by not having accidents. It's just kind of human nature that you look at this and say, oh, we need to do something about this, and ignore the fact that several other lives may have already been saved by it.
Yeah. It's
Yeah, it's like, I'm not sure it's a proper thing to do, but whenever someone asks me about, oh, well, self-driving car just killed someone, what do you have to say about self-driving cars? Obviously, they're not ready for the road yet. And then I say 20, and then of course you have to go and look up these statistics, and it's like, in the early part of 2015, there were 8,800 deaths caused by people driving cars.
Right.
And I know it's not really good form to compare deaths to deaths and say, well, it's safer at least, but one that's going to get blown not out of proportion, because this is really big news, because hey, it's the first that happened, but it's still in context one death out of, now it can be added to the overall traffic accidents caused by distracted driving, caused by whatever it may be. It's now one of 8,000, 7,000, 9,000 other fatalities in cars this year. So
Yep.
at least it's trying something different, because other than self-driving cars, like, you can say how we do things traditionally could be working, but with 9,000 deaths, is it really working?
Right. Well, and if we have the technology, and if we're capable of making a system that can do it more safely, and how many lives need to be saved to make it worthwhile? If we say that it's going to cut the chance of a fatality in half, and not just fatalities, that's one important number to look at, but even injuries. I mean, if you can prevent not just a serious accident, but maybe it's still an accident, but it's not a fatality. Maybe the car can do some maneuvering to make the accident less traumatic than it would have been. There's all sorts of ifs, all sorts of variables in this, and it's something that's going to continue to get better, and at some point they need to be able to justify it and go to the government and say, here are the real-world statistics. We've had so far only 130 million miles driven on these, but that's going to exponentially continue to increase as more and more cars are on the road, and show the statistics that, okay, you are twice as likely to die in a car if a person is driving it than a computer. And at what point do you trust the computer then? And there will still be accidents. It's not going to be zero.
Look, this is not the first. I mean, planes for the most part fly themselves. Yes, we have pilots in there, but a good majority of the part is through autopilots and everything. How many fatalities on planes do we have? Trains, boats, ships. There's no mode of transportation out there that I know of, short of walking, and even then, that you.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. There's still fatalities by trains. We hear about those. There's still fatalities by planes crashing, and that kind of thing. But sometimes it's the pilot is not mentally competent, and he tanks it into a mountainside. Sometimes the ship hits a storm, and not much an AI can do there, and the ship goes down. Like, there are a lot of factors, but like, they're not taking AI out of any of these. If anything, they're increasing AI in every one of these, because
and in all those cases you guys just mentioned, the boats and the planes and everything else, it has the expectation that there's still a pilot or a conductor or a captain who's in charge of it and paying attention and making sure that the autopilot system's doing what it's meant to do. Because the plane can be configured, all right, climb to this height and then turn to this and then do that, but if the pilot sees that that's going to be a problem for some reason, it's his responsibility to change the program, because the autopilot doesn't it doesn't communicate with air traffic control. It's the pilot still needs to be there, and in the same sense, the driver at this stage, and probably for quite a while, will still need to be there and paying attention for these weird exceptions that will happen. Yeah. And I think that's the problem. And Tesla mentions in their thing that that perhaps the driver, they say here, neither autopilot nor the driver noticed the white side of the tractor trailer against the brightly lit sky, so the brake was not applied. So neither the driver nor the autopilot touched the brake, and I think that's part of the problem. Is we can see how the computer failed, but the people failed as well. We had a computer fail, we had the driver of the truck fail, and I think we had the driver of the Tesla fail.
Yeah. Right, and I'm glad that he said it that way, that it's both to blame the computer system and the person, but it goes back to that little black box that Tesla has in every one of their cars,
Yeah.
that they can read every single thing that happened before. Like, it's not like, it shows here in our system logs that the driver was slamming on the brakes and cursing while he went headfirst into the truck. No,
Right.
I mean, he didn't do anything. The car didn't do anything. Like, it's not like the Tesla car malfunctioned and rammed him into a wall. It was failures
Right.
all around.
Well, and that's a key thing, because so many of the people I've talked to, I think, thought that's what had happened. Autopilot killed the driver, and I really think that the accident happened in spite of having autopilot, not because of autopilot. Perhaps, in a sense, the driver was too complicit because he trusted autopilot too much, and that may be a factor here. And within the Tesla community, a lot of people are discussing whether it should even be called autopilot. That pilots understand what autopilot means, that it doesn't mean it's going to fly by itself, but that a lot of drivers don't understand that and trust it too much, that it should be like advanced cruise control or some other term. There's been many thrown around.
I mean, you wonder, you hear these things. I mean, you wonder, they say, well, they'll be able to figure out a way so if that scenario ever happens again. And it comes to mind, what they have something like the Kobayashi Maru scenario where there is no answer. You can't win. And so, I mean, you wonder if it's ever going to be nothing. I don't think will ever be 100%.
Absolutely not. Nope, never be 100%. I mean, even if you had all of the cars talking to one another and all of the cars completely autonomous so that you don't have the human factor involved, you don't have a truck driver pulling in front of you that's going to mess up the system, even with all of that, there'll still be failures and things will still happen, or Mother Nature will throw in some variables we won't expect.
Yeah, or hit by
There'll
lightning.
always be something.
There will always be something, but again, the general numbers is it's going to decrease the number of road fatalities.
That's certainly the way it looks right now, and we're so early in this. I mean, this is the first car that's had this type of self-driving capability, and I hesitate to call it self-driving. It's not true self-driving in the sense of Google's self-driving vehicles, but I mean, it's the first commercially available. 130 million miles is a fair number of miles, but what's that going to be in 5 years or 10 years? I mean, autopilot's only been around, up and running for a year or so.
Mm-hmm.
And now all of a sudden we've already got 130 million miles. That's going to be 1 billion miles in a blink of an eye. And the difference in the software's complexity and capability of where it is now to where it's going to be when it hits 1 billion miles in just a couple of years is enormous.
Yeah. And what about the Google cars? There hasn't been no fatalities yet in the Google car.
No fatalities. Although you might remember just a couple of months ago we had the first accident that was caused by the Google car, caused by the Google car itself, not being driven in manual mode, but being driven in self-driving mode.
What was
It hit a bus or caused a bus to hit it. It was driving in the right lane, going to turn right onto a crossroad, but then there was some sandbags around a storm drain, and it had to go over to the left a little bit. It saw that the bus was behind it, but it thought the bus would slow down to allow it to go around, and the bus driver didn't think that, didn't anticipate that, and hit the car. So the car went out of its lane, and the bus hit it, and the car was at fault. And they point out that it's the same sort of miscommunication or misunderstanding that humans would have, that the car saw the bus, thought the bus was going to do something, and the bus wasn't thinking that at all, and probably didn't even anticipate it at all. And so they've updated their software so it's not going to make that mistake again. It's going to assume that larger vehicles are going to be less likely to slow down for you if you suddenly cross into their lane. And again, so that exact scenario isn't going to happen again in any of their self-driving vehicles. And that's a really exciting thing, is that, just as you pointed out earlier, Craig, is that they're going to continue to get smarter, and you have this fleet system, this fleet mentality that, instead of me having to make mistakes, I get to learn from other people making mistakes.
Hive mind, yeah, it's going to like a hive mind.
Hive mind, yep.
Exactly, but what would have happened? I mean, what would it have done now in this situation with the new coding? I mean, would it have? It wouldn't have pulled out. It would have driven over the sandbag. What would it have done?
I don't know, but I suspect it would have stopped in its lane until the bus passed and it could go around. But I don't know that for sure. It's just my speculation.
But it did show that Google needed to teach OK Google a couple of curse words so it could get out of the car, and when the bus driver got out, they could yell at each other about what just happened, because that was the part that was missing. was that angry exchange of information.
But seriously, folks, what in that scenario there was no right answer? In other words, slowing down would cause the car and back to hit it. Pulling out would,
Again, slowing down and stopping in your lane. If a car rear ends you, that's not the car's fault. That's the guy behind you who's not paying attention's fault. That would probably be the best way. Again, Google thought, Google spent a lot of time making sure that this car drove just like humans. Like it's not trying to drive like a computer in a computer world. It's driving like it's trying to drive like a human, and so it thought it thought that it could get around. It thought the bus driver would pay attention. It was trying to act natural so it wouldn't be out of the way. But in that situation, the best thing would be to slow down, wait in your lane, and then when it's safe, and then merge over to the next lane. There is a right answer. It's just it was trying to.
But there
act
isn't always. That goes back to that theory of, I think Craig was starting to allude to earlier, where suppose if you're going down a lane, if you continue to and you lose your brakes and you continue to go straight, then you're going to kill two people, or if you turn to your right onto the sidewalk and then you're going to kill only one person. It's those sort of scenarios that they have to make some
right. That there's no
some decisions.
Right answer. Right. There's no right wrong answer.
I mean, the argument is made. I mean, people might hear that example and say, well, obviously you turn to your right and run down the person on the sidewalk in order to save the two in the road. But that's not an obvious thing, because then you've committed murder. You've made an action that person on the sidewalk would have been saved, have it not for you to make that action, as opposed to if you just run down the people on the road, it's not your fault. The brakes failed. You couldn't stop the car. So it's those sort of things that actually are things that people have to decide, and that sort of scenario takes place all the time. I mean, every day there's a weird scenario like that where you have to make that kind of determination, and they'll have to program the cars to do it one way or the other. And what if one's a child and one's an adult? Does that give more worth to one over the other, or if one is the president and one is Ben? Then doesn't.
What if one is good looking? What if one is ugly? I mean, Craig knows that I hate those kinds of scenarios, because first of all, there probably is a right answer, which is stay in your lane, keep everyone safe as possible. And if you can't, then just do everything within the car and the computer's possibilities of staying in control of itself. But the other thing is, why do self-driving cars have to be superhuman? I mean, a person who has to make that choice is going to kill one or two people. I mean, if that is the choice, then the person is either going to kill itself, one or two people. Why does the car have to magically come up with the impossible right answer that fixes everything? Why does it have to be infinitely better than a person?
Yeah, there's no impossible right answer, but the problem is that that answer needs to be determined ahead of time and can be criticized then, which is a lot better than the person who has to make that decision in a split second and has probably never even thought of that sort of scenario before. But it's something that a lot of people don't like to admit, that those sort of difficult decisions have to be made, that does happen.
Yeah. And
it's not a fun thing to think about, but someone's got to think about it when they're programming what millions of cars could potentially be doing on the road.
It's going to come up. I know this is going to come up. I know Ben doesn't like it nor talk about it, but I am sure.
It's not that I don't like talking about it. It's just I feel like I have the rightest answer. I'm the most right out of anyone ever about this particular subject. Is that the car can very safely, okay, let's say you have option A and option B. Option A, complete death. Option B, complete failure. Well, why not just? It operates on a day-to-day basis, hour by hour, minute by minute, with a certain set of parameters. Stay in your lane, don't hit anyone, do this, do that. Why do you all of a sudden have to make this decision when you could just say, okay, if there's a person 500 meters up the road and you think they're going to be in the way, slow down. Stay in your lane, slow down, be safe, be a defensive driver. These cars aren't just seeing things like in a split second. They see these people hundreds of meters away with their radars.
But not always. The problem is those random variables. Like if you're driving down the road and all of a sudden a pedestrian steps in front of you, or a truck pulls in front of you, as an example, as we just heard about. But if you're driving down the road, and all of a sudden at a split second the pedestrian doesn't look or whatever and just steps right in front of the car, you can make the decision just to slam on your brakes and hit them and kill them, or to steer your car into the median and hit a concrete barrier and kill yourself, or there's certain variables, certain options you have there, there, and you just need to make a decision on which one of those options you're going to do. And if your option is I'm going to slam on the brake and do my best to stop, even though the computer can figure out that I'm not gonna, then that's okay, but that decision has to be made.
Yeah, and who makes it? If I'm buying a car and that decision falls on the favor of the pedestrian as opposed to the driver of my
Well,
life.
what if there's 4 school children that just jump in front of your car, and there's only one of you in the car? Slam you into the bridge and save the school children, right?
Uh-huh.
And they're all walking puppies, and they're all holding kittens. So they
Right,
yeah,
exactly.
as heart-wrenching as you can make these emotionally loaded questions that, you're right, are probably going to come up in real life, but it also has to go with that hive mentality you were talking about earlier, is that these situations can only happen so many times before, cars are going to figure out the best way to deal with these situations. It can only happen so many times before the best way is going to be found.
Yeah, well, I think that what we're discussing, though, is that someone needs to make that decision. What is the best way? Because these aren't easy answers to come to. It's not easy for someone to say, well, would you kill yourself in order to save 4 other people? Because your car is going to make that choice for you. So hopefully the manufacturer agrees with wherever your morals are on that.
I want my warranty. Listen, we're gonna have to pause here, and then we'll continue on. Mike Cermak joins us for this hour. We're talking about self-driving cars. We got a news tips review from Marty Winston coming up as well. We'll be right back. You're listening to Computer America.
Sometimes disaster strikes. Data can be lost due to many different reasons. Accidental reformatting, power spikes, virus attacks. Zero Assumption Recovery provides a suite of highly effective and thorough data recovery software for Windows operating systems. ZA is suitable for home users and small businesses who need a powerful data recovery solution for Windows and Linux file systems.
Go to z-a-recovery.com.
Sometimes disaster strikes. Data can be lost due to many different reasons. Accidental reformatting, power spikes, virus attacks. Zero Assumption Recovery provides a suite of highly effective and thorough data recovery software for Windows operating systems. ZA is suitable for home users and small businesses who need a powerful data recovery solution for Windows and Linux file systems.
Go to z-a-recovery.com.
Hi, this is Craig Crossman, host of the Computer America Show. You have important meetings to schedule. Your company's getting ready for its IPO, and you're in charge of the PTA fundraiser this month. So how do you coordinate everyone to be available at the same time? Are you still using emails, phone calls, even text messages to schedule meetings with a group of people? How's that working out for you? Not so great, huh? It's a fact that every day, millions of people suffer from scheduling headaches. Well, with Doodle, scheduling meetings with a group of people is quick and easy. With Doodle, you can easily propose available times to each member. Each one checks off the times that they are available, and then you simply pick the time that works best for the group, all in an easy-to-read display that integrates with your existing calendar. Nothing could be more simple. Give Doodle a try for free, and like millions of Doodle users, you'll truly see how easy it is to find the perfect date and time for all your meetings. That's www.doodle.com.
Nah, nobody knows how old your sweat marks are. Marty Winston, News Tips Bulletin for Computer America. This time, a review of the Raspberry Pi Model 3B. We have a policy not to review anything when money changes hands, but we're making an exception here because of its source. We bought a Raspberry Pi Model 3B. It's about the size of a deck of cards. This model adds Wi-Fi, Bluetooth 4.1, a 4-core processor, and other features that are important to our autonomous house project. Well, it is designed for development, not for deployment. We are finding ways to adapt it for what is essentially a house-sized prototype. It allows a significant amount of processing power within our context and benefits from vast amounts of shared support from its huge user base. Bottom line, Raspberry Pi 3B is a tasty, filling, delicious, and low-calorie treat for making complicated tasks easier to accomplish. Marty Winston, News Tips Bulletin for Computer America.
And welcome back to the Computer America Show. And, I gotta say, folks, if you're watching the video portion, I just have to apologize because, you may see me. Obviously, you won't see Craig, but you may see me kind of looking off screen. This is because I'm looking on my phone. I am waiting for Pokemon Go to finally hit the App Store, and
Critical.
it was supposed to hit last night, and last night was the debut, and it hit Australia first. Still hasn't come to the U.S. yet in the Apple App Store, or the iOS App Store. So you go on there and you look at Pokemon Go, and you have 300 games all about Pokemon, not made by Nintendo themselves, all just knockoffs that are looking to steal your money. So it's still not there, sadly. But yeah, that augmented reality version of Pokemon is supposed to be available now. Good luck finding it, though. So, well, okay. Well, other than that, though, welcome back to the Computer America Show, and we have Mr. Mike Cermak here with us. We are, doing, I guess, just news stuff about Tesla, and all the impossible choices that smarter people than us are working on as we speak, from many different companies. Because Tesla, or I'm sure as as Craig and Mike know, that Tesla is not the only one working on self-driving cars. Google, of course, has had one. I know. Google's had one for a long time. Every division of every higher-end car company, so think like Audis and BMWs and Mercedes, they're all working on their own, and they all have their own timelines about when they are going to have their own kind of autopilot features baked into their cars. So, like, we're going to see it, it's not just going to be a Tesla problem. These kind of problems that we've been asking are going to be an industry problem in the next 10 years, because everyone is going to have this technology. And
Yep.
so, yeah, well, yeah, everyone's going to have technology, and everyone's going to have their own different versions. So, hey, maybe BMW kills the kids, and Mercedes kills you. So, hey, maybe some fine print reading to go in there. So, Mike, if you're done with the whole Tesla thing, the whole Tesla autopilot thing, I think we have a lot more stuff we can talk about.
Sure, let's move on. What do you want to hit?
Let's see. You sent us over Microsoft Edge Experiment Battery.
Yeah, did you guys see this thing?
That was the one with like the Chrome or the different like browser operating system.
I'm just going to go out on a ledge here, and I'm just going to assume that Ben is probably a huge fan of Microsoft Edge.
I would be. I've used it. It's very clean. It's definitely a modern browser contender. It's just, I feel like Microsoft released it and they're like, oh, coming soon, app support, coming soon, other features, and then
coming soon, usability.
Right, and then like a year later, crickets. So
yeah.
I would be if they actually
I don't know. It's interesting. So Microsoft Edge, first of all, for those who don't already know, is kind of the replacement for Internet Explorer. So in Windows 10, you now have this new web browser called Edge, which is very confusing to a lot of users because it has a blue E icon that's very reminiscent of Microsoft Internet Explorer, but is in fact a completely different program, just also used for web browsing, very confusingly. So Microsoft Edge, I know of very few of my users who use it. They just don't like it. It's different. They just have no reason to want to use it. They already use Chrome or Firefox or one of the other web browsers, or some of them still are using Internet Explorer. Eventually, I suspect Internet Explorer is not going to be available. You're going to have to use Edge or switch to one of the other browsers. But what this story is about, what's kind of interesting, is Microsoft released this video here a couple of weeks ago, about 2 weeks ago, that shows 4 different PCs that are all the same make and model, laptop, all looking at the same automated set of websites and videos, and all of a sudden it comes up and shows you how much time each of these laptops can run on battery power viewing that content in that particular browser. So, for example, the Google Chrome can look at the set of websites for 4 hours and 19 minutes. The Firefox goes 5 hours, Opera goes 6 hours, and Microsoft Edge, to everyone's surprise, goes 7 hours. So it goes significantly longer, so it's much more efficient on battery life. I would assume, presumably, because it doesn't have any of the features of those other browsers, but that's just my my critical view of it. But in fact, I'm sure they've done something here to make it far more efficient, and which may be very useful to people running on battery life. I mean, 7 hours on surfing the web is pretty significant.
Right, and I saw the whole thing. It was put out by Microsoft, so I was a little wary of it. But true or not, I'm not surprised at all that Chrome sucked. Like Chrome, I use it for my desktop, and it's a great browser if you want everything kind of talking to each other. But the power consumption that it takes, like the resource intensiveness of Chrome, I have no doubt that thing fried the laptop before any of the others did.
Yeah, I mean, it feels snappier to me, Chrome. I think it's a faster browser, but it certainly uses more CPU than any other,
Right.
and probably RAM. I haven't run a test on it, but probably RAM. But I'm confident it uses more CPU. Part of it is though that I also have add-ons and things on my Chrome browser that I don't have on other things. I have Hangouts built into it and Rescue Time, and looking at my toolbar, I don't even know what else I have on there. Google Translate, I'm sure I use that all the time. And Dashlane, I love Dashlane, but that's probably part of it. But I mean, here you go. I mean, they showed it here, and I haven't tried to reproduce their findings, but I assume that they're accurate, and that on this particular model laptop, that it does last almost twice as long running Microsoft Edge than running Google Chrome, and that's interesting.
Yeah, if you're one of those people that just kind of uses it for streaming or travel or things like that, it definitely made me sit up and think, oh, this would be the perfect one if you're really concerned about battery life.
Right. If you're on a mobile device, on a
Right.
laptop, or on a Windows 10 tablet, or something else using Edge, maybe you want to switch to Edge for that reason. And as you mentioned here, supposedly in the near future, in the next month or so, we're supposed to be able to have add-ons and companion programs in Microsoft Edge as well. So at that point, more people might be willing to switch over.
Here's the hoping. Here's the hoping. And all right, so
and hopefully that battery life will still remain consistent with that ability to have add-ons.
Definitely. So that was that one. There's a video out there, you can go check it out, but it's really just like a sped up 2-minute video of watching laptops burn their battery. It's not that exciting, but the findings are definitely very cool. I really want to get this one in here because I watched the little video that you included, but yeah, I guess this is the best way to stop idiots from trying to do this, but I know it's illegal to counterfeit currency.
The police have told you
obvious.
many, many times. Listen, Ben, this is illegal. You can't copy money.
Right, and here I was making pennies in my basement. I have thousands of them that are all counterfeit, but
each one costs you $10 to manufacture, but
it's the integrity of the thing. But like, you sent this video over, and we'll put it up on the video portion for anyone who wants to see it with captions on it. But I did not know that you physically can. Physically you can. Technologically, you are not allowed at all to copy money.
Yeah, it's becoming increasingly difficult to copy money, to copy currency, whether it's U.S. dollars or euros or whatever. And what's fascinating to me about this is not that you're not allowed to. Obviously, every government doesn't want you to counterfeit money. That's not so interesting. But what's fascinating and why it's relevant in this show is the technology that is also trying to prevent, or at least make it increasingly difficult for people to do that. And for example, most modern photocopiers or scanners, if you put a dollar bill or $20 bill or $50 bill on it and hit copy, most of them won't do it. They might start and then stop as soon as they realize that it's a bill. And I ran into this myself. I mentioned to you guys that I was working on a graphic image that's used at a kiosk at a car wash that we were putting on the touchscreen, and it has a dollar bill on it. And I opened it in Photoshop, and it froze and came up with an error message saying you can't open this file because there's an image of currency on it. So
Whoa.
yeah, I was like, whoa, wait a minute! I actually need to edit this file, and it was just a JPEG that had a dollar image of a dollar bill on it, and it would not open it. And of course the people who want to counterfeit money, I guess, are just going to have to use older versions of the software that don't detect that, and older hardware. But progressively over time, it's going to be more and more difficult. And so what's interesting about this is how does it go about detecting that? And that's what this video is about, that people can go in and look at. But it turns out there is a constellation.
Secret code.
Yeah, there's a secret code on almost every currency in the world, and that there's these symbols that are a pattern, I guess you would say, on the dollar bill or on certain currency that the scanner and the software and the photocopier looks for to detect that this is a banknote and to stop copying it. There's an article on Wikipedia about this. It's called the Urian constellation, and it was discovered. People noticed, hey, that this is how they're doing it. It seems that there are now other ways that they're also doing it, because even if you black out the parts where we can see the constellation on dollar bills, it still won't do it in many versions of Photoshop, for example. So there's other ways they're also using to try and detect it. But this Urian constellation can be found in almost any currency. I mean, in United States bills, I have the list of it here on Wikipedia. The United States dollar, the United Arab Emirates dirham, the Ugandan shilling, the Turkish, the Thai, the Swiss, the all these South Korean, South African. I mean, you just go on and on and on. And there's a list of maybe 40 different countries here which currency has this constellation on it, this symbol. Which I think we might be about to see in that video that.
No, the symbol was like way back in the beginning.
I see.
Yeah, of what it was like, there. But
there you go, perfect. Yeah, you just brought it right there.
Yeah,
and which is just fascinating that this symbol has been on all of these different countries' money for so long, and we're really just becoming aware of it.
Like the measures that go into making sure that the counterfeit doesn't happen. I'll be honest with you, I never thought that anyone would be stupid enough that you would just, let's make some counterfeit money. Okay, go get your printer. I have a 20 here. Let's make this 20 into 20,000. We can do this. We have a ream of printer paper. But, I guess there was someone out there who tried to, steal the image of the dollar. I guess the only way around that, although you couldn't print it through a printer, but you could just take a picture of the money. That's the only way that you get it on, but you couldn't scan it into a lot of these copiers.
And then do what with the picture? You can't open that picture in Photoshop.
That's true. So you have to go to, so you have to go to GIMP.
Yeah, right. And I suspect Photoshop, I'm just using it as an example because it's so common, but I believe that most photo editing programs, it lists here PaintShop Pro, Photoshop, other Adobe products. So I suspect there are many other ones also that have the same restriction on it as well. But your point is still valid. If nothing else, there are older versions of these programs that would still be able to edit it. But going forward, those older versions won't work on modern computers at some point. So it's going to become increasingly more difficult to do that. Not impossible. I mean, nothing's ever impossible. If someone's really that committed to do it, they'll find a way of doing it. People counterfeited money long before computers and scanners were around, but it's just something to make it that much more difficult to be able to do it. And it's fascinating, the technology that goes in to be able to do it. And if you watch the video on it, and I think you have but if other people watch it and see, they even put a black strip over the part where the constellation is, and modern programs still won't scan it because there's still something else that they're using to identify that that's a banknote. And it's just really, really interesting that they're going to that much trouble to try and prevent it.
Yeah, you piqued my interest. I have a very modern, up-to-date scanner, multifunction printer.
Yep.
And I've never thought to put a dollar bill on there and see what it would do. I think after the show, I'm going to actually try to see if I can photocopy a dollar bill. And
wow, Craig, you're really incriminating yourself on national radio right now.
Okay.
That's not a good move. That's not a good look for you, Craig.
You should really do that during the show so that we can hear live as the police bust down your door and come in and on the ground. That would make great radio.
Yeah, I'm sure it would.
So the newest printers don't just prevent you; they also call the cops on you. That's nice. That's nice.
That's a new feature, It's
exactly that built-in 911.
You got to read the fine print on those license agreements,
Yeah, exactly. But I am curious to see if it would do it. I'm gonna try it, and then I'll report on it tomorrow. What happened? Was I able to copy? Because the printer, the scanner that I have actually it's a dual side. I could actually do both sides. And
I can make this look real convincing, folks. That's all I'm hearing.
Well, and then I want you to go out to the bank and try and get some change.
No, I'm not. No.
Trust me, Craig. They'll understand. It's all for science.
Yeah, I'm just doing this for science. No, I don't think
so. Listen, officer. Let me explain.
I'm with the media. That helps sometimes.
You can see the headlines now. Media person tries to copy dollar bill.
See, that just doesn't sound like the most convincing criminal. It just sounds stupid.
Especially if it's a $1 bill. I'm not sure that it would really anyone would care.
But they put all this in place in all the currency, right? I mean, even the dollar bill. I mean, the dollar bill is usually the last piece of currency to get updated to all the modern.
Did they update the $1 bill?
I don't think so.
Like I know that they did like the 5 and up, but I don't recall if they did the 1 yet.
The one I'm looking at a one right now, and it's the same standard one.
Yeah, so that might not have all the crazy, signs and numbers and
It's
art
probably
drawings.
not worth it to put all of the different, security in a $1 bill versus. I mean, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I've never tried to counterfeit a $1 bill.
Yeah.
Wow, we just figured out how to start our criminal empire here on the show. That's nice.
Just use $1 bills.
Yeah.
Yeah, the $1 bill is unchanged as far as I can determine here. It looks just like any of the ones that I've seen around for a very long time. You look at a $100 bill; it's pink and it's got bands and it's got. I mean, it's like nothing you've ever seen.
Canadian ones have dinosaurs on them.
I mean, it's very
that's
pretty.
interesting.
I mean, it's a form of art. It's beautiful to look at. I mean, it's very pretty, But I don't see any of that coming to the lowly $1 bill,
Not worth it. So as much as I like crime, we have 10 minutes left, and I know that sometimes our trivia games that we do here with Mike sometimes run long. So, Mike, if
Let's hit it.
you have
So
one prepared, right?
Our first question for the trivia quiz should be: if convicted, how many years will Craig spend in jail? For counterfeiting, I don't know the answer to that. I'll work on that for next time. Our quiz, in fact, is left over from last time I was on. We ran out of time, but it's on Android Wear. You might remember I had an Android Wear watch that I was wearing and had done some research and reviews on that. So we're going to talk about Android Wear. Are you guys ready? Have you studied up?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We've set it up.
You didn't send me the answers this time, but
I forgot.
I'll wing it.
And because we skipped last time, I honestly don't remember whose turn it is to answer first. So you guys might have to fight that out between yourselves.
Let Ben go first.
Oh wow, thank you. Too kind.
Well, I'm not sure if that's the polite. Oh, so anyhow, we've got 7 questions as always. Our first question is: Android Incorporated was founded in October 2003 with the intent of building a better operating system for digital cameras. In what year was it acquired by Google?
Well, that's a good question. Google buys so many companies that it's hard to keep track of all their acquisitions. Of course, Android being one of the bigger ones. And since you said camera, that just I have to think about when the first Android phone was released, and it was probably 12 to 18 months before that they actually acquired them. So I'm going to say Android really hit the market somewhere in 2008, 2007. So I'm going to say 2006.
Okay, I'll go 2005.
The correct answer is 2005. Yep, you were one off, Ben. I love your logic. That was excellent.
I like to show my logic because I want people thinking I'm just spitballing here. I want to show people I'm thinking.
Because if it were me playing, I would just be spitballing. So I'm really impressed whenever you. Well, we'll let Craig answer this next one first, but I'll be interested to see Ben's logic. Question 2. It's estimated that Google paid at least $50 million for Android Incorporated. What was Google's revenue in 2005 when it acquired Android? So they spent $50 million on Android, but how much was their revenue in 2005?
Wow. I know they're a multi-billion-dollar company, so wow, a total guess.
Total spitball here. Let's go.
All right, I'll say 500 billion.
500 billion.
Well, the obvious thing would go 499, 499. Below that.
But really, only a jerk would do that.
Absolutely, and I would be off by a couple hundred billion, I'm sure. I'm going to say that Google, they rose to power. They conquered the internet as we know it. Internet advertising, I don't think was taken that seriously until kind of like the early 2000s. But $50 million is quite a chunk of change. I'm going to say their total, kind of whatever it is we're talking about here. I'm going to say 700 million.
700 million. And what was yours again, Craig?
500 million.
No, 500 billion. Get
Oh.
out of here. You said multi-billion.
I think you're right. So the correct answer, interestingly, is 6.1 billion.
Oh.
Oh.
Which means that I think, if I do my math correctly, I think Ben is still much closer.
Yes,
By hundreds of billions, yes.
He's off by hundreds of millions.
Yeah.
But still closer. It's
Okay.
to me. So that's correct. So question 3. So now we're tied. Craig and Ben each have 1 point. Question 3. Google actually made money. Excuse me. Google actually made more money last month than they did in all of 2005. In fact, their 2015 revenues were more than the GDP of Jamaica, Iceland, and Lithuania combined. What was Google's revenue last year in the billions? See, I'm giving you a hint there, huh?
Right. So you said it was like in 1 month or 1 day or something like that they made more than $7 billion or whatever it was. I'm going to say, oh man.
In 2016 or 2015?
2015.
Well, so in 2015, the revenues were more than those things. So they made more money last month than they did in all of 2005.
Got it. All right.
So what was their revenue last year?
Okay, so yeah, I mean, Google owns internet advertising as we know it. I mean, there's only really Google and like 1 or 2 other competitors out there that can really serve that up. So that's $250 billion
Wow.
in 2015.
All right. That's your answer. $215 billion.
$250 billion.
250 billion.
That's probably off by like a couple billion, but yeah.
I'm going to say 75 billion.
That's probably more conservative and probably better, but
What's funny about that is the correct answer is $74.5 billion.
I got Craig.
So darn close. Craig's still wrong, but he's very close.
Very close.
You get the point for sure. That's very impressive. All right. Question number 4. What is the average price of an Android app? And this goes to Craig. What's the average price of an Android app?
Yeah, come on, Mr. iOS. What is the average price of an Android app?
Yeah, look who you're asking, right?
Android has apps? What is this?
I thought they were for cameras.
They were usually Apple's was used to be 99 cents.
Well, let me give you a hint.
Yeah.
An awful lot of the Android apps are free.
Yeah. I'll say 10 cents.
10 cents. That's not bad. That's not a bad answer. The only thing that makes this confusing for me is, of course, and I don't have time for logic. 17 cents.
17 cents. I'm afraid Craig gets the point on that one. It is actually 6 cents.
Whoa.
Yep. So there's an awful lot of free ones out there and very few expensive ones, I'd say. So we've got 3 points for Craig and 1 point for Ben. Question 5. According to Wikipedia, droids are split up into different classes, such as medical droids, construction droids, security droids. How many classes do we know of in the Star Wars universe?
And this is not an Android question.
Yeah,
it is a droid question.
It's a droid question, yeah.
Okay.
So how many, there's a class 1 droid, a class 2 droid. How many different classes are there?
I would say, oh gosh, I still haven't seen the last Star Wars episode. I would say 5.
And Benjamin?
I'm gonna go with 20. It's probably more than that, but 20.
Excellent guesses. We know of 5 classes.
Wow.
I must have sent the answers to Craig instead of Ben by accident. So that's 4 for Craig, 1 for Ben. We've got 2 questions remaining. The last update to Android was released in December. It included some security fixes and how many new emojis?
Oh, is this
is for Craig.
That's for Craig.
First.
Okay. You're talking about the first, the most recent emoji update. You're saying?
The most recent update to Android was in December.
Yeah.
And how many new emojis did it include?
Okay, I'll go 140.
And Ben?
I'm gonna go 139.
I like the way you're playing it, but you went the wrong way. The correct answer was 184. 184 new emojis.
Wow.
And we'll quickly get here to our last question. So the score is 5 for Craig, 1 for Ben. So our last question is going to be worth 5 points, I guess.
Points.
How many apps in the Google Play Store have been downloaded to more than 1 billion devices? How many apps in the Google Play Store have been downloaded to more than 1 billion devices? And I'll give you a hint. They're all owned by either Google or Facebook.
Oh, gosh.
And that's to Craig.
How many have been done? I would say like a billion.
Whoa, I think you might misunderstand the question.
Oh, well, I'll tell you what. Stay with us at the top of the hour, Mike. We got a quick break. And then
Cliffhanger.
Yeah, cliffhanger, and then we'll re-explain it to me.
As we give Craig a second chance for some reason.
All right, you listen to the Computer America Show, and we have Mike Cermak here with us, and we're going to take a pause just for a moment, and then we'll be right back. You're listening to the Computer America Show. Please stay with us.
Broadcasting live. It's the only national radio talk show on computers to air every weeknight. Computer America. Hosted by national columnist Craig Crossman. The first hour's behind us, but there's still more of tech news, tech talk, and your phone calls. We're being beamed nationwide at ComputerAmerica.com. You got computer problems? Bring them on. You're listening to Computer America. Computers run the world, and we run computers. Call us or send us an email to live@computeramerica.com.
Hello and welcome into Hour 2 of the nation's longest-running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers. This is the Computer America Show, and I'm your host, Craig Crossman.
And I'm your co-host, Ben.
And we continue on. Mike Cermak is here with us. He's agreed to stay with us into the
for just like 2 minutes while we get this whole, trivia thing settled out.
We've got to see who's going to win.
Yeah, we got
We've got this cliffhanger. Don't you hate when they do that at the end of a season?
Yeah, exactly.
Those classic 5-1 cliffhangers. Always leave you riveted.
So our last question was, how many apps in the Google Play Store have been downloaded to more than 1 billion devices? And they're all owned by either Google or Facebook.
Okay.
So
okay.
Facebook and Facebook Messenger and
right. I understand the question clearly. I'm going to say 2.4 billion.
Okay. And Ben?
2.4 billion and one. Even though that's my answer. Even though I know it's going to be closer to like 115 billion, but I'm going to say just whatever beats Craig, 2.4.1 billion.
I really feel maybe the listening audience isn't with me on this, but I thought I read the question so clearly. There are 15 apps in the Google Play Store that have been downloaded more than 1 billion times.
Oh, so I lost again.
So you lost again.
That's good.
I don't. So that's us.
The way that I heard the question, that I interpreted in my
both
stupid
heard
little
it
brain,
the same way, and I.
Was that what is the total number of apps downloaded through the
Google Play Store? Oh, okay. All right.
Yep. Gotcha.
So who won?
6-1.
Let me count up my math. 6-1. So yeah. So Craig won that one. I don't think we've had.
That was a blowout.
Have we had a full blowout? I don't think we have we?
No,
I'll have to go back and check my notes.
No.
Maybe that's something to look forward to next time.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
It was all downhill from that 2006-2005 answer. That was
and you had such good logic on there. You had it all figured out at the beginning, and then it just all swept away.
I wonder where he got that from, too.
My mama. I don't know.
Well,
but that was a lot of fun. Thank you, Mike.
It was.
It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it, guys. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
a quick shout out. People should go visit techguy.org.
Yes, please. I was going to say, what are you up to? Where people should go? Techguy.org.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, check out Tech Support Guy at techguy.org. As Craig mentioned at the top of the last hour, we have people, volunteers there, always ready to answer your questions. If you're having problems with Windows 10 or Chrome or Microsoft Edge or whatever it is, you can go in there and post a question, and volunteer will try and help you out, or at least point you in the right direction. And it's all done for free. We're paid for just by advertisers and donations. So go there, ask a question, and someone will be happy to help you out. And while you're there, if you see a question that you know the answer to, feel free to answer that as well.
Mike Cermak, again, owner operator techguy.org. Thank you so much for being with us here, and we're going to see you next month, same time.
Yeah, I dropped you an email with a couple of dates that'll work for me, and so we'll work that out because I'll be lounging on the beach thinking of you guys on the first Wednesday of the month.
All right. Well, we'll certainly get that together, and I'll see what you want to do, and we'll see you on that time. All right, Mike Cermak, again, thanks so much for being with us here on Computer America. You take care.
You too. See you guys. Have a good show.
Bye bye.
Have a good one. Bye.
There he goes, Mike Cermak, again, operator techguy.org. So now, welcome into the second hour of the show here on Computer America. Again, we'll keep the phone lines open. If you do have a comment or a question for us, 347-884-8881 will get you on and get you through. We're in this hour going to do computer and technology news brought to you by Slimware Utilities. Anything else you want to touch upon before we actually start doing the news, Ben?
Anything else I want to touch upon? No, we have a lot of great news stories, and really great first hour there. If you're just joining us for the second hour here, highly recommend you go back and check the first hour. A lot of great discussion. And if you're just joining us now, we don't mention enough, but we have a video portion of the show. We only mention it in the very beginning of the show. So if you're just joining us right now, then know that there's a video portion. Go to computeramerica.com, and it's streamed right there, and is also on Google Hangouts and Google Plus, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, the easiest place to find it is, of course, computeramerica.com. So check that out if you didn't know about it.
Yeah, exactly. Any page.
Some people, some people don't do that.
Yeah, any page at computeramerica.com, it's under the menu bar there. It says Show Lounge, and
right.
I'm thinking of changing it from Show Lounge to a live video stream or something like that. I'm going to probably wind up changing that. It'll be more clear.
No, trust me. The website needs an overhaul already. I can tell you that.
Okay, but in the interim, I might just change that to a live video stream or something. But anyhow, it's under the Show Lounge, and you click it, it'll take you to our the live video streaming page, and they'll be joined to the show already in progress. Okay, well, it is time to do computer and technology news. So let's do some news. Today's computer and technology news is brought to you by Slimware Utilities, the official optimization software of Computer America. You can visit them at slimwareutilities.com to clean, speed up, and optimize your Windows system. Check them out at slimwareutilities.com.
All right, so welcome into another computer and technology news segment. As I think we're going to kick off this one with a blast from the past. And an emphasis on blast, because there's a new recall out. Yay, recalls! There's a new recall out for hoverboards.
Oh, yeah. It's funny you mentioned that, because I saw for the first time where I live.
Are you talking about the neighbor kid? Because he's had one forever.
I don't know, but this looked like he was riding one of those little hoverboards, and when I pointed out to your mom, I said, those are the ones that ignite. But he was having a good time on it. He was just doing it, and he was doing it extremely well. And
yeah,
it was the first one that I've actually seen, and there it was. So
yeah, no, well, I know who you're talking about, and he's had one for a while now. But yeah, no, hoverboards, for those of you who don't know, think of a Segway with no upright. So you just stand on a flat surface, and yeah, it has two wheels, and you kind of tilt your toe, and you kind of push your toes forward and down.
Yeah.
And that makes it go forward, but you stand essentially on a level surface, and it can either back up or go forward. And it's a bit of a balancing act, but once you get the hang of it, just like a bicycle, people really tend to get the hang of them. So the only problem is that I want to say it was the 2015 holiday year, it was last holiday year, that they really became popular, or maybe even the year before that. They really became popular, and a bunch of companies in China, they got their hands on, a bunch of batteries and a bunch of electronics, and Amazon was flooded with Chinese knockoffs
Mm-hmm.
of hoverboards. And these hoverboards had a slight tendency to catch fire because the batteries were so shoddy that they would catch fire. And people had videos all over the internet of their of their hoverboard catching fire and melting. And obviously that's not something that you want kids to play on. It's something that's going to catch fire.
Or
And
adults, quite frankly.
or adults, or anyone who could potentially be harmed by these things.
Mhm.
And and again, if you remember, there's a huge recall because all the batteries that were built into these things were awful, and they were recalled. Amazon actually took them off the shelves. Like, Amazon took every single hoverboard off, and they offered to like they told their customers, throw away your hoverboard. It will, or send it to an appropriate recycling center. It will explode and hurt you. We will refund you your money. Just go throw it away. Like, that's how serious it was. Like, they didn't even ask for them back because they were a fire hazard. They just wanted people to not use them. And then so they told people to throw them away as they refunded their money at the same time. But there's a new one out because the Consumer Product Safety Commission is recalling 501,000 self-balancing vehicles over the concerns that the batteries will overheat and catch fire. So over 500,000 hoverboards are being recalled. So if you own one, odds are that you're affected. The notice covers models from relatively big names like Airwalk, Razor, and Segway. Or I'm sorry, Swagway, not Segway, Swagway. And Mashable mentions 10 other brands. So, of course, this doesn't mean that you have to go without a board. If you want one of the relevant Swagway models, you can ask the company for either a repair, to bring you up to Underwriters Laboratory safety standards, or a credit for an Underwriters Laboratory certified model like the Swagtron T1 or T3. So, you can always contact the manufacturer, and they probably have some kind of rebate system that will get you onto a safe hoverboard. So it is important to stress that the market is turning a corner. Swagway and others are producing safer devices that probably won't be taken off shelves anytime soon. So you can likely get a brand new hoverboard with confidence. But of course, however, the recall is a reminder that the rush to capitalize on the hoverboard craze had some serious consequences, and that riders ultimately were the ones paying the price. Because, like I said, there was that huge craze, and, there were a lot of knockoffs on the market that were extremely unsafe and were extremely prone to fires. So, now that the craze has kind of died down a little bit, we have these companies that are in it for, they're in it to win it, that hopefully theirs are going to be a little bit higher quality.
Yeah.
Going forward.
Especially for that little kid that owns one here in the area. So
right.
Yeah, exactly. Because they're really cool. I mean, the fact that they do, they don't hover. I mean, they're named hover. They don't, but they're just basically like Segways without, as Ben mentioned, without the stick that you can hold onto. You just kind of you manipulate them by putting your toes down or up, and that's forward or back. And they have these cool little lights on them that kind of reflect their motion. It's just a very cool thing. Anyway.
Yep.
Okay. Now, you remember CamFind? They were on the show quite some time ago. They made an app for your smartphone that whatever you take a picture with it.
Oh, yeah, right.
And then CamFind would detect and tell you what it was you're taking a picture of, what what it was, and and it's still around and it works extremely well. But evidently, Google thinks they can do it better because
they don't think they can do it better. They think they could buy someone who can do it better.
Yeah. So they're buying the startup that helps your phone identify objects. Okay. They purchased something called Mood Stocks, which is a French startup that specializes in speedy object recognition from a smartphone, which again shows Google's interest in artificial intelligence. I don't know why they just didn't buy CamFind, because I think CamFind is really
well,
good.
That's the one that we've heard about, but I think Google probably Googled who they wanted to purchase. So.
They Googled it. Okay.
Right.
Hey, yeah. Does Google use Google? You darn
they sure as heck don't use Bing.
No, they don't. Uh, Now, unlike other products, including Google's object recognition app, MoodStocks does most of the crunching on your smartphone rather than on a server. That's true. Campfine also doesn't do it on your phone; they do it on the servers. That
Right.
upload, they crunch it. So evidently, the difference is that with this one is that your phone is doing most of the crunching. So while Google seemingly has some pretty good image spotting tech already, like the canny visual recognition in photos, it says it's just getting started. Okay. I've used many times when I want to search for something, Ben, and sometimes words just don't do it. I can actually take an
It's
image.
this thing, and it's like this, and it's,
Yeah, you
yeah.
can't. So I can actually take a picture of it or have it. I already have it on my computer, and you just click the little camera next to the thing, and you can it'll upload. You can download an image to Google, and then it will search based on what the image is. And I've had very good results with that. Some things are just very difficult to.
You've had good search results?
Yeah, I've gotten pretty darn good search results. Yes.
Okay.
There was the last time I used it. There was a piece of furniture that we had, and we couldn't remember the manufacturer. There was no markings on it, and I put it in there, and I actually found it. Okay, from the
Very
stuff
cool.
furniture. So it was very, and basically, how do you describe? Oh, it's copper, and it's got this. And you can't really define it. You just words just don't do it. But having a picture of it there, and it was able to find.
Well,
it.
when things are really broad, it's like antique chair. It's like that doesn't really tell you much.
No.
So being able to take a picture and being able to search by that picture,
Yeah.
something I never even thought of, but has so many applications.
Yeah, it does, and and if you haven't used it before, you've been frustrated, trying to search for something it's hard to describe. Google has it. There's a little picture of a camera right by the search bar, with the search entry area of Google. It's the only one. It's this big white screen with the Google on it. Yeah, click the camera, and if you have an image of it, you can upload the picture to Google, and it will actually search by that photo. Anyway, according to the story, there's still a long way to go with the machine learning, and that's where MoodStocks comes in. Google said in a blog post. The deal seems to fall into the Aki-hire category, as MoodStocks will cease its own recognition services, and its teams of engineers will join Google at its R&D center in Paris. Okay. Google is rumored to be working on a feature that allows Android users to search directly from their photos, though the company didn't say if the acquisition is related. Google isn't the only company pursuing deep learning and image recognition. Facebook, Twitter, Microsoft, Amazon, and basically most of Silicon Valley are enamored of the tech. It's already being used in voice recognition apps like Alexa, Cortana, and Siri, and image recognition products like Google's Photos and Microsoft's Translator app. Other deep learning applications include driverless cars, robotic concierges, cooking, weather forecasting, writing criticisms, and infinitely more. Most of those apps rely on powerful servers like IBM's Watson, but the latest trend is to speed things up by processing data on your device itself. Apple's iOS 10, for instance, will rely less on cloud computing and more on the iPhone's built-in horsepower for image recognition. That's cool. Google's purchase of MoodStocks appears to be along the same lines, as the startup has expertise in thick client computing, which uses a combination of cloud and on-device computing as well. But yeah, I mean, the smartphones today are becoming so powerful with the multi-core technologies that certainly, I guess, it's interesting because sometimes I'll use Siri, and for one reason or another, I'll hit the little microphone and I'll get the little spinning circle, and it goes right back to the thing. Siri isn't there because, and quite frankly, if you're not online or you don't have access to the internet, Siri isn't going to work.
Right.
So, and it just happens from time to time, but it's frustrating. So if you can get a lot of that power kind of pushed over to your phone rather than relying that you have to have an internet connection all the time, that would be cool. Anyway, that's the purpose of this, and we thought we would tell you about it. But again, final piece of advice, again, if you're looking for something and you have it's difficult to kind of put it into words, try taking a picture of what it is you're looking for and then uploading that to Google in the search, and you might get really good results.
Yeah, it's the technology's come a long way. It's totally worth its shot. I've tried it with certain things, and some things it does really, really well. Other things, it has some work, but it's sometimes way better than trying to describe it. So, good advice there.
Yes.
How about this story? This is one that happened a couple days ago, but definitely worth mentioning. As if we talk about the FCC, then of course we have to talk about the UN and how they expand basic human rights to the internet. So, this article is from Popular Science, Mr. Corey Mueller, and your government shouldn't curb your freedom of expression online. So, this is exciting stuff because the UN Human Rights Council now says you have the right to freedom of expression on the internet. This is not, well, of course, it's probably only enforceable to the people who actually signed the treaty, but yeah, at least the UN declaring it is something, right?
Yeah, it is.
Right. So, in a new non-binding resolution, gotta love those non-binding resolutions, the UN condemns deliberate, quote, measures to intentionally prevent or disrupt access to or dissemination of information online. So, this condemnation means that the UN is against government shutting down the internet at any time, and essentially during times where information must be urgently disseminated, such as during an election or immediately after a terror attack.
Yeah.
As you know, many countries, at least in the Middle East, do this. Whenever there's a terror attack or something that happens, they immediately shut down Twitter, Facebook, social media sites, all these things. They immediately shut down the internet in in hopes of trying to stop terrorists from coordinating further attacks. Kind of piggybacking on this, but it has the side effect that people are unfortunately unable to reach family members or friends who may be in the area, or be able to tell others that they are safe if they were near something that happened.
Mhm.
It's a huge mess, and now we have the UN coming in saying that internet and the right to disseminate information on the internet is a basic human right, and you shouldn't shut that down just because you think it would be best.
Mhm.
They're guaranteed to have internet, especially in times of distress. So, not only this, but the resolution also focuses on the freedom of expression online, security concerns surrounding this expression, accountability on all human rights violations, and an effort to expand and provide internet access to those whom it's currently unavailable. So, that is another important point, and why quite a number of countries that you wouldn't expect. Like, I remember when this first came out that there were, I think, 17 countries that didn't sign this, and they included India, and a lot of people were surprised about that. But I think it's that little part right there where they have to guarantee internet access to their citizens.
Mhm.
Is that India, even though it's definitely up and coming, is a developing nation, but to be able to provide internet to 1.3 billion people is just not economically feasible by any stretch of the imagination. So they did not sign this. And 17 other countries, including places like a couple places in Africa, China, obviously for the censorship. Russia didn't sign it, but Saudi Arabia didn't.
China is notorious for doing this. I mean,
China has essentially their own internet. Like, they don't
Yeah.
even use Google. They have their own whole side of the internet.
yeah, what is it called again? It's not Bing. It's something.
No, I want to say Baidu, but that's not it.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, but no, Google essentially has their own internet that the Chinese government approves,
Mhm.
that they can use. And if you're found looking up content that is not approved by the Chinese government, you can get in a lot of trouble. So,
Yeah, come home and arrest you.
right. So, of course, this resolution covers aspects of Article 19 in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which asserts, quote, everyone has the right to freedom of opinion and expression. This right includes freedom to hold opinions without interference and to seek, receive, or impart information and ideas through any media and regardless of frontiers.
Good luck
So-
to it if you live in a communist country. That's not going to.
Well, again, there are a lot of benefits in being part of the UN, and the UN, even if you think they're a mostly useless organization, and they do have problems enforcing some of the things that they do.
Yeah.
This at least is a large multinational, body that has these guidelines that says that having access to the internet and being able to freely express yourself without reprimand or without being arrested, that's a very important thing to have.
Yeah.
Not 100% of the countries on earth did not follow this. 100% of the countries on earth are not part of the UN.
No.
But this is a good step forward and shows that at least those who sign it can say that we agree that open communication is for the betterment of humanity.
Yeah.
So there's that. They said that the resolution received pushback from countries like Russia, Cuba, China, and 14 other countries who have their qualms about helping people gain access to and use the internet freely. Which, like you said, are government regimes that are very not open to an informed public.
Let's see: Russia, communist; Cuba, communist; China, communist. Yeah, I think so. Pretty much.
Well, no, 14 other countries. I don't know if like United Arab Emirates is communist or not.
No, they're not. But no, that's a good point. But but they have their social guidelines are incredibly restrictive.
Right. No, just certain countries that are doing this. But I think Brazil is. Here we go. Brazil, Nigeria, Sweden, Tunisia, Turkey, and of course. Those are people that actually protected it. But anyways, so let's not get caught up in details that I'm getting wrong here. Let's just wrap this up and say that over 40 other countries have indeed signed the resolution and agreed that internet access is a basic human right, and the freedom of expression on the internet and the ability to put out information and to pull down information is a basic human right that should be protected. 40 countries have said absolutely. So that was a nice thing to see.
Yeah, exactly. It is. Anything that is a champion of human rights, certainly.
Especially in what this article calls the digital age, is that legislation doesn't always seem to catch up to the digital age. Things change socially faster than the legislation that oversees it. So it's nice to see that they're trying to get out ahead of it and say, what is going to be best for the future of a society that has access to the internet, and hence resolutions such as this.
There you go. Okay, now, how about a piece of earth-shattering news? This is really something. Folks, as of today, guess what? Pokemon Go rolls out on Android and iOS. It's available now. Oh my gosh.
What a story.
I know Ben has been anticipating.
It's still not up.
No. But according to Engadget, it's finally time to catch them all out in the real world. This is so cool. With all the news surrounding Pokemon Go's beta test and wearable, you'll be forgiven for thinking the full game was already out. Until recently, it wasn't. But that's changing if you live in the United States and have an Android device, as spotted by 9 to 5 Google. Rocking a handset designed in Cupertino? Well, only iPhone owners in Australia have access at the moment.
See?
So member of patience. I know you were standing there patiently.
That's bullcrap. Hey, right.
I know. So unless you're in Australia and you have an iPhone, it's not available to you yet. But they're saying a measure of patience is in order because it is coming. The game that brings Pokemon collecting into the real world via developer Niantic Labs augmented reality and GPS tech has been gestating for quite a bit. Now I'm saying this right. Pokemon, right?
Yep, Pokemon.
Pokemon, not Pokemon. Pokemon.
Pokemon.
The intent Niantic CEP told the Engadget back in June is to make you feel like you're venturing out into the world and capturing the pocket monsters for yourself. You can live the story of being a Pokemon trainer, he said. Now it's time to discover how quickly you can catch them all in the real world. Isn't that cool?
And of course, the best thing about this is that, it's going to be geographically important where you are, because, you're not going to be up in the mountains somewhere and see a Pokemon that is only found in the middle of the ocean. It's not just going to pop up on your phone.
Right.
If you're, depending if you're in the beach, if you're in the wetlands, if you're in the forest, if you're in the mountains, if you're in the desert, you're going to get different Pokemon that belong in different areas. So no one person is going to be able to find them all, but this is something that a lot of kids that were born, late 80s, early 90s, growing up with Pokemon, and this is their childhood. This is something that's really appeals to them, because this is, this was the idea that of what Pokemon was that you were someone who could go out and find these Pokemon and capture them. And, and this, to a small extent, lets you do that.
Yeah. Well, they're here, and they're in your augmented reality world. And
But they're not here yet, at least here in the US.
Yeah, but shortly. Keep looking.
Maybe.
Keep looking for them. All right, we got to pause, and we'll be back. We're going to have another News Tips Bulletin review from Marty Winston. This is the Computer America Show. Ben and I are doing computer and technology news, brought to you by Slimware Utilities. Trust me when I say we will be right back with more stories. Stay with us. Hi, this is Craig Crossman, host of the Computer America Show. You have important meetings to schedule. Your company's getting ready for its IPO, and you're in charge of the PTA fundraiser this month. So how do you coordinate everyone to be available at the same time? Are you still using emails, phone calls, even text messages to schedule meetings with a group of people? How's that working out for you? Not so great, huh? It's a fact that every day, millions of people suffer from scheduling headaches. Well, with Doodle, scheduling meetings with a group of people is quick and easy. With Doodle, you can easily propose available times to each member. Each one checks off the times that they're available, and then you simply pick the time that works best for the group, all in an easy-to-read display that integrates with your existing calendar. Nothing could be more simple. Give Doodle a try for free, and like millions of Doodle users, you'll truly see how easy it is to find the perfect date and time for all your meetings. That's www.doodle.com. Looking for a best friend? Brother Wolf Animal Rescue has your best friend waiting just for you. The mission of Brother Wolf Animal Rescue is to help build a sustainable, no-kill community where no dogs or cats are ever killed for population control, where true euthanasia is reserved only for animals who are irremediably suffering, or for animals who are truly a threat to society and with no hope of rehabilitation. Brother Wolf staff and volunteers go door to door, neighborhood by neighborhood, to educate citizens about local resources available for at-risk pets and to help their families connect with those resources. Brother Wolf's community-based approach to no-kill helps keep family pets healthy, happy, and in their homes and out of the local shelter system in the first place. For more information or to make a tax-deductible donation to this wonderful 501c3 organization, visit their website at www.bwar.org. Help to realize Brother Wolf's vision when no animal is euthanized for lack of a home.
Who's a good boy?
Oh, I wish they made a protectant with SPF Infinity. Marty Winston with a News Tips Bulletin Review for Computer America, this time MagVent. Sure, you can build a computer with your eyes closed, but the last time you had to replace your dryer. Exactly how nimble did you feel, especially when it came to attaching the two ends of that flexible hose at both the dryer and the wall? We got in two models of new MagVent for review. One of the models is for straight-ahead connections, the other for right angles. The one that you use depends on which wall has the vent connection. You screw a bracket onto the wall and clamp
And welcome back to the Computer America Show. Not sure if the audio just cut out for myself or that was something different, but yeah, we're just going to plow ahead here as we continue to do computer and technology news brought to you by Slimmer Utilities. Here are 33 minutes past the hour, and yeah, we're heading into our final segment as we are doing computer and technology news brought to you by Slimmer Utilities, as I said before, and I said again for some reason, but Craig just finished up the story about Pokemon Go and how it's a highly anticipated, Android and iOS app that a lot of people have been looking forward to. And of course, the big thing about this is not only is it about Pokemon, but Nintendo. This is one of their first. This is one of the first attempts to bring an IP to. Yeah, this is one of the first attempts for an IP from Nintendo to be brought over to iOS and Android, because before this, for the longest time, the only way that you could get anything by Nintendo, you had to buy a Nintendo DS, or you had to buy a Wii U or some other Nintendo dedicated console. Nintendo was not for multi-platform, kind of what have you. So it had to be strictly with with Nintendo products. So seeing them branch out, also a very good deal. But let us continue on as we are doing many, many different ones. And you know what? We're going to stick with the games for a second. So from video game to video game, and we're going to jump on over to Overwatch. Overwatch is a game that we've talked about here on the show before. We talked about it during our last Gamer Tuesday with Josh Boykin, or even the one before that. But it's, this happens with a lot of Blizzard games because Blizzard is so popular. They have, tens of millions of people playing their video games, that to be very, very proficient in them, you definitely want to, be very skilled first of all. But if you can't be that skilled, then you will want to go out and purchase software. Definitely wants to, be very skilled first of all. But if you can't,
Ben, are you there?
yes, hello.
Okay, all right. Sorry, we had a little bit of a hiccup, but
I noticed that you had you had myself come back through. But so as I was saying before, I was so rudely interrupted by myself. How dare I? So Blizzard is starts to sue an Overwatch cheat developer, and this happens with World of Warcraft. This happened with StarCraft. This happened with Diablo. This happened with Hearthstone. This happened with a lot of their IPs. People make a lot of money selling licenses to cheating software that you play in the background as you play these games. And in Overwatch, the most popular one is something called an aimbot, because Overwatch is a first-person shooter, and accuracy means a lot. So you have this thing called an aimbot that will direct your cursor and essentially give you 100% accuracy, which is, obviously very, very influential on the game, because then, there really is no counterplay to that. You are cheating and ruining the experience for a lot of other people. And in the past, Blizzard has done a lot of things to try to go and detect all of the different systems that go into, cheating. And so they try to punish the end user by saying, we detected that you're cheating. Here's a 6-month ban. Here's a perma ban. Here's this, here's that. But they've been going after the end users. Well, with Overwatch, which again just released 2 months ago, they're coming out swinging, as they are filing a lawsuit against the developer of an aimbot. And this is a company called Bossland, and they're saying that Bossland software is violating copyright, hurting sales, and discouraging honest players, which is all true. So, the software allegedly violates copyright laws, including the Digital Millennium Copyright Act anti-circumvention measures. So, more importantly, Blizzard claims that Watch Over hurts both legitimate players and the bottom line. The developer may be losing tens of millions of dollars in sales to gamers put off by the thought that cheaters are running rampant. And that, I can say firsthand, is very, very true. I've run into people who use aimbots. It is not a fun experience. It makes you want to quit the game, because there is no way that is fair or competitive at all. So,
Wow.
So whether or not the software did that much financial damage, there's no question that Bossland is aware of what it's doing. In response to an earlier Blizzard crackdown, it swore that it would make watchover harder to detect. You don't do that unless your product is unlawful, Blizzard argues. And that's something that I've seen from a lot of these software companies that are used to, they're used to play the game or augment your play style, obviously in a surreptitious manner. Everything about them claims that they are untraceable, undetectable, that you will be safe, that nothing will ever happen to your account, that it's that it's legit, that it will do everything it promises, and you will never be caught as the cheater that you are. And when you make promises like that, that can only mean that you are doing something that they obviously want to hide from the developer of the game. So the real debate may be over jurisdiction, of course. Bossland insists that the U.S. has no authority over a company that supposedly has no connections to the country, and that Blizzard could easily have sued 5 years ago over previous cheat software. Blizzard would likely beg to differ. Watchover is directly affecting an American game producer, and it's not clear that Bossland is doing anything to stop U.S. sales. And this is something that's, I don't think Bossland can win. First of all, Blizzard and Activision are huge multi-billion-dollar companies. If they want to find you, they'll get you. Of course, legally, I'm not talking about hitmen here. I'm talking about legally. They will find you. There was a botting company that was in France, and all Blizzard had to do was set up a one-person office saying it was their French or their, saying it was the French division of the company, and they were able to pursue them legally in France using French lawyers and French copyright laws, that they got them taken down. It's not too hard to open up a one-person office and then prosecute these people in their native country.
Hey, it's big business, and
it is.
They do what they need to do.
It's big business to sell the games and to sell millions of copies of these games. Like Overwatch itself sold something like 15 million copies like in the first week or something like that. It was insane amount of money. $40, that's a couple $100 million. You can bet that they'll want to make sure their game is as it has as much integrity and as much competitiveness as possible, and that is definitely hurting their reputation. So, but also selling the software that lets you be better than everyone else through artificial means, of course, but lets you be better. That's also big business. These people are probably making millions of dollars developing and selling the software that lets you be better than everyone else. So, it's big business, but Blizzard is probably bigger.
Is there any monetary advantage for being the better player?
There are people who will there's a ranking system. So let's say you're rank 30 and the top rank is 100. If you want to be carried to, let's say, rank 80 or even rank 90, they will have people with accounts that they don't care if they get banned or not, but they'll use your account and you'll play your account, but then you'll play with people who use this kind of software, the cheating software, on those accounts that they don't care that get banned. And so they'll sell you a boost. They'll say, hey, we'll get you to rank 90, pay us $200 and we'll get you there. So they have, and then there you go. You have 4 accounts that are using this cheating software and they just made $200 off of $80 worth of software that they just purchased. And they can do that every single day until it's not profitable anymore. There is monetary gain to being very, very good at these games because people will pay money to be higher ranked in these games.
Wow. Well, so again, as you say, Blizzard is suing.
Yeah, Blizzard is coming out swinging. This IP has only been around for 2 months. Overwatch has only been live for like 2 months, and it took Blizzard a couple years, almost a decade, to go after the software manufacturers of a bot for, let's say, something like World of Warcraft or Diablo 2 or 3. It took them years to build up a case and to go after them. But for their new IP, they're like, no, 2 months and we're going to start taking names because they really want this to be, very, have a lot of integrity in the competitive aspect of this.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hey, it's, as you said, it's big money. They're going to do what they need to do to make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Ben and I are doing computer and technology news, and this next one here, we talked about Deezer before. Basically, did Deezer replace
Deezer purchased Stitcher.
Stitcher? Right, exactly.
So Deezer is huge over in Europe. We hear about this all the time that like certain companies have like a monopoly over in Europe. Like they're huge in Europe, but they aren't companies that the U.S. market has ever heard of. So when they want to make debuts over in the U.S., either they start another company in the U.S. that has the same name, or they come over here and they purchase the biggest competitor. One of our friends like Doodle, they were huge over overseas in Europe, but in the U.S. they're relatively unknown before they came on the show. Same thing with Deezer. So they just went out and bought Stitcher. Stitcher being a very well-known podcasting hosting service.
Now we're on Stitcher.
We are on Stitcher.
Yeah, and will we be on Deezer?
We are on Deezer.
We are on Deezer. Okay, well, that's good to know. But evidently, according to this story from Engadget, he says after getting on the Apple Watch in March and selling off its podcast app Stitcher last month, music streaming service Deezer is cleaning up its user experience. To compete with Spotify and Apple Music, they freshened up their homepage in hopes that winning hearts and minds today requires discovery to be front and center. Deezer isn't innovating so much as it's keeping pace with its rivals. Spotify's Discover weekly playlists have 40 million listeners, and Apple Music will get a cleaner interface for finding music when iOS 10 launches this fall. All seems to be hunting for that sweet spot where a little bit of user choice guides a ton of algorithmically chosen songs. For Deezer, that means augmenting their signature auto-generated playlist flow with channels full of content and podcasts corresponding to music genres. Their auto-curated selection, I like that, takes your location into account, according to the press release, though it isn't clear whether this means suggesting local artists or tailoring your mix to the taste of other nearby users. Yeah, what would they focus on with they locate you? If you're in the South, do they recommend country music? I mean, what would it be?
Well, and like this is one thing that I really like about what they're saying is that there is a lot of music. Like let's just take Pandora. I listen to certain things on Pandora, and I'll have a dozen stations, but then one of my friends will pop up their Pandora, and they'll have songs I've never even heard of. And when you just have this giant miasma of thousands and millions of songs, how are you supposed to find anything other than just we'll link them together this way. So by adding maybe location-based tools, by adding maybe this song has similar influences as this song, by adding ways to discover new music, that is a really good way to kind of encourage people to keep listening, because hey, you have variety.
Sure. Well, anyway, this update releases today, which means Deezer has a few months head start on Apple Music, but time will tell whether the user interface revamp is enough to secure users from the tide of hype that comes with a new iOS. So there you go. That's the story. Again, as we mentioned, you can certainly hear Computer America on iTunes, but you can also hear it on Deezer, because you used to be able to hear it.
You need to triple check that, because this article actually said that they sold off Stitcher last month, which no one had told me about that.
Well, you need to check that. Yeah, make sure.
I need to check that. Like, we're definitely on Stitcher. There's no doubt you can find Computer America on Stitcher. It's just what relationship to Stitcher and Deezer have now. I need to look into that.
And again, the link to Stitcher is at computeramerica.com. All you have to do is go to syndication under the About Us. You go to syndication, the pull down menu there, and we have a link right there to Stitcher, which will take you to where you can hear Computer America right there, and it's right there. Okay, good enough. All right. So what's next?
What's next? Well, there's a lot of things next, but I think we're going to talk about we teased a little bit, and it's big news because this is something that affects a lot of consumers. So yeah, Verizon has new data plans, and they're out with the old, in with the new, and they're more expensive. So if you're a Verizon, if you're considering switching to Verizon, and I'm sure there are ways of grandfathering if you were already a member and already had a plan. But if you're planning on joining Verizon, they will have a new set of more expensive, um, data plans. So
Okay.
let's get into this with Engadget, Sherilyn Lowe, and she says that looks like the rumors were mostly true. Verizon is adding 30% more data to its existing tiers, as well as new features that let you roll over your unused data to the next month and activate a safety mode. The carrier has also redesigned its mobile app to make it easier for customers to shop, manage data, and pay bills. So, here's how they do it. They have the S, which I'm sure kind of stands for small. The S plan for 2 gigs, which was originally 1 gig. M medium for is now 4 gigs instead of 3. L is now 8 instead of 6. XL 16 instead of 12. Double XL is 24 instead of 18. So, and again, that's across the board. So the only plans that are available, like it's not like you can get the S 1 gig. The only plans that are available are now the increased data, plans.
Mhm.
So the plans price have gone up by $5 for S and M tiers, and 10 for the L, XL, and XXL tiers. So, just like bigger data caps, they also have, increased prices that you cannot argue with. So, existing customers will have to opt in to get the new rates and new features, which will be available from July 7th onward. So, tomorrow.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they're saying that the new carryover data program rolls over unused gigs to the next month.
I like that.
Not for a year like T-Mobile allows its data stash program. Verizon executive explained that the company believes it's keeping it to a month makes managing your bandwidth easier. I don't know what that means. I think it's pretty easy to see. Here's your total. Here's what you use. Blah blah blah. But whatever. So the safety mode tool, which you'll have to activate, ensures that you don't incur overages. It drops your data speed to 3G when you hit your limit instead of charging you for using more high-speed bytes. The XL and the double XL plan get safety mode for free, while the S, the M, and the L users have to pay $5 to get the new feature. So, so customers will also get a new My Verizon app automatically through their phone. And of course, if you don't like these changes, existing customers can keep their old plans and rates, but you won't get all the new goodies. So, for better or worse, yes, Verizon just got a little bit more expensive, even though Verizon was already the most expensive carrier on the market. But by the same turn, they've increased data by, in some cases twice as much for the small one, and in other cases by about 30%. So, yeah, everything about cell phones nowadays, it's almost unheard of to not get unlimited voice and text, because voice and text takes very, very little bandwidth on the cell towers. But data is the all important metric. And what are you gonna do?
Not much. There is very little one can do about it. But there is something you can do about July the 12th, because that's supposed to be Amazon's Prime Day. We've been hearing about it. If you've been
That was such a bummer last year. I don't know if you remember covering that one, Greg.
Yeah.
But the Amazon Prime Day,
it wasn't that time.
It was so lackluster. Like they were kind of building it up as the replacement to Black Friday. This was going to be the better than Black Friday sale. And then you go on there and you look, and it's like there were a couple good deals, but they sold out because they only had 3 units. For a couple million people looking for deals. And then the stuff that they were selling was the crap that you find on the bottom shelf of the warehouse that no one wanted anyways. Like like for like a 4 generation old iPod Touch, like a phone case. It's like, who needs that? That's not a deal, Amazon. What are you doing to us?
Well, Rick Brody from CNET tries to clear this up. He starts off by saying it's beginning to look a lot like Prime Day. Well, anyway, July the 12th, Amazon's going to kick it off. Now, he basically says, what happened last year, and a lot of what happened last year is what you said. Customers found a lot to dislike. The biggest discounts were on Amazon's own products, like the Kindles, Fire tablets, and those seem to come and go at random. Meanwhile, the majority of items on sale seem to like dollar store clearance, basically, hence the quick emergence of the hashtag Prime Day fail. Okay. So he's saying they're getting a second shot at this, and maybe they've learned from their mistakes. Hopefully they have. He says, one of the things that you should care about Prime Day, he says 2 words, TVs and toys. Those are the big categories this year. Okay. And toy deals are promised nearly all day. Of course, as noted, there will be countless other deals as well across just about every category. Amazon will offer Alexa power specials as well. So if you own an Amazon Echo, Dot, or Tap, you might be able to score some exclusives. Amazon is also promising savings of up to 40% on Kindle Unlimited membership, although it's not quite clear what the up to part is all about. Okay. And that'll cost you $9.99 a month. He says, why you shouldn't care about this? Well, if he says he bills himself as I'm Rick the Cheapskate Prodia, and I write about tech deals pretty much every day of the year. And let me tell you, every day is Prime Day, which, but what I mean is that they're great bargains to be had at all times. So that's what he's saying there. In other words, don't get caught up in the hype. If there's a particularly good deal to be had on a product you've been eyeballing, by all means, grab it, but don't think that this is your only opportunity to save big. And of course, an important point is that Prime Day is for Prime subscribers. Okay, you have to be a Prime subscriber to get this. You have to, that's the bad news. The good news is that if you've never tried Prime before, you can get a free 30-day trial for Prime. And that trial membership qualifies you for Prime Day savings. By the way, if you're a college student, you get a 6-month free trial of Amazon Prime, which after that you can snag the membership for just $49, which is like a $50 off the regular price. If you're a student, that's really a great deal. And he says, of course, Prime Day is pretty much already underway. Kind of. He says you can find refurbished Sonos Play 3 speakers for $224. He gives different deals that are available.
And the article kind of goes on for a little bit, but I gotta say, for Prime Day, it's not going to be a replacement for any kind of Black Friday or Cyber Monday. You're not going to get your holiday shopping done in the middle of July. The only good thing about it is that this is essentially a giant warehouse cleaning event for Amazon, because as you can imagine, Amazon and those huge monolithic warehouses that they use, there's tons of things that don't really fly off the shelves, and this is their opportunity to kind of put it out in the forefront, hype it up and say, hey, look guys, we got deals. And they'll hype it up enough that they'll get people to come onto Amazon, and they'll put some of their crappiest stuff up for 60% off, and they'll say, hey, come on, buy it. And that stuff was never going to move in the first place, but now that they put a price tag on it, and reduce it, it might just move. I feel like that's what Amazon Prime Day is.
Yeah.
It's a way of clearing out the stuff that is very, very slow moving and earn just a little bit of money on a lot of stuff.
Hey, let's face it. After all, the mission of Amazon is to finding ways for you to buy more Amazon stuff. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I mean, we here at the Crossman household, we use Amazon quite a bit, and you really do get some really good deals. There's no question. And of course, that 2-day free shipping can really add up as well, more so than $99. So it really is a good thing. We recommend getting Prime. It's a good thing. But remember, again, the Prime directive of Prime is for you to buy stuff from Amazon, and just go in there knowing that, with eyes wide open, and you should be happy.
Well, for me, that's Craig's message, is to be wary that Amazon wants you to buy Amazon. My message is that even though they're saying that there's going to be a lot of televisions and toys for sale, don't expect anything stellar. Like, in my mind, based on last year and what Amazon Prime was, you're going to see sales on like 23-inch televisions. And don't get me wrong, there are certain applications for 23-inch televisions that are very, very useful. But for a lot of people, you're looking for 32 and up televisions. You're looking for the really good deal on the 65-inch televisions. They're probably going to be in very, very short supply. What goes on sale
90 seconds.
is the stuff that doesn't fly off the shelves. Because why would they, if you've been eyeballing something, why would they slash the price on it if you were going to buy it eventually anyways? Amazon Prime Day is to sell stuff that doesn't move. So don't expect anything knock your socks off crazy.
All right. Well, that wraps up the show, and you've been forewarned and forearmed. Coming up tomorrow in the second hour, we're going to have computer and technology news brought to you by Slimware Utilities. And in the first hour, he hasn't been with us for a while, but David Perry is going to be back with us. He is a security expert. He's going to be talking about DEF CON and Black Hat and some of the scourge that's out there. He's a security analyst and specialist, and he's a longtime friend of the show. And we've decided to have him back on tomorrow's program. So he'll be with us.
It's been a while.
Yeah, for the first hour. In the meantime, thank you all for joining us here on Computer America. And Ben and I will see you here, same time, same place, same station. So until tomorrow afternoon, this is Craig Crossman, hoping that your hard disk never becomes floppy. We'll see you tomorrow.
Have a good one, everyone.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
10 seconds. Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.
Okay, again, everybody, thank you so much for watching. And again, thanks to Mike Cermak for being here with us. And we will see you all here tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.